What's up, everybody? This is Rob Metalworks, and welcome back to a new episode of the Mass Metal Monologue. Yes, it has been quite some time since I've delivered one of these monologues. I think it was back in May earlier this year when I talked about the Kirk Hammett book. But I wanted to get one out definitely for the month of Rocktober. And, you know, so many things happening in the rock world, and I always like to talk about my favorite things, and that's the purpose of this session here today. Yes, and many of you may have heard that legendary hardcore band Life of Agony out of Brooklyn, New York is celebrating the 30-year anniversary of their sophomore release called Ugly. Man, I can remember back to the day when that record dropped and my friends and I clamored to get it as soon as we could. Remember, back then there was no digital, so we had to run to the record store and pick it up. And I remember we jammed that record for so long repetitiously because we were also big fans of the debut River Runs Red. But Ugly came out in October of '95 via Roadrunner Records, and it definitely delivered something new and different for the band. Now, gone were the really fast tempos, and Ugly delivered a kind of melodramatic, mid-tempo, heavy, crunchy, vocal-oriented record. And I remember a lot of the pub that I was reading prior to the release of Ugly, especially from their former drummer Sal Apruscato, who was so positive in thinking that this record was going to be great, it was going to be professionally produced, and it was going to be their best effort thus far. And it really turned out to be, even though a lot of fans were expecting and wanting some of that heavy, speedy stuff, I think eventually they came around and got in tune with how wonderful of a record Ugly is. And I'm so happy that the band is celebrating the 30-year anniversary. Now, first and foremost, like I just said, the record was really melodramatic, and you saw Life of Agony deliver a new side of them, especially on the lyric front. Yes, very emotional, identifying with struggles with depression or alienation, identity struggles and inner pains, and a lot of that came out from vocalist Keith Caputo. I was always a huge fan of Keith, even since the early beginning, because he stood out amongst the New York hardcore singers. And why? Because he sang it clean all the time. Kind of reminded me of Joey Belladonna back in the day from the thrash metal era. Joey was the only one singing clean, and that's what Keith did. And he had such a wide vocal range, and his vocals were also so damn deep. And I became a huge Life of Agony fan, always was since the early 90s, even right around when River Runs Red dropped. And some of you Rob's Metalworks Familia members know, if you know me from back in the day, I always used to wear the New York Yankees hat. And a lot of fans would always ask me, like, Rob, are you a baseball fan? And I would say, no, man, I wear the Yankees hat and wore it for many years. I think the first 12 years of Rob's Metalworks, and I wore it just because I wanted to honor the New York metal scene back in the early days. All the great metal bands were coming from New York. Madball, fucking Typo Negative, Life of Agony, Sick of It All. And yes, my favorite band was Life of Agony, so I wore the New York hat to most of all honor Life of Agony. And I loved Keith Caputo and what he was doing. I loved how deep he was and how he wasn't afraid to share his emotions with the listeners and all the fans. And this record was deep lyrically because he also shared a lot about his feelings about his mother and father. So when you hear the opening track, Seasons, that song is about his father. He says in there, it disturbs me to see you getting old. He's talking about his father, who, as we all may know, was a drug addict who eventually succumbed to his vices. His mother, too, died at a young age because she was also afflicted with drug use. So when you hear songs like Let's Pretend or How We Would Be, Keith is reminiscing and thinking and dreaming about what it would have been like for him as a young adult to have a relationship with his mom. And then, of course, he was a young man at that time, as indicative as the song Lost at 22 says. So really, a song like Lost at 22 really still trying to self-identify and where he was and where he was going. And many of us at that time were feeling and wanting the same thing. So yeah, man, I love Keith Caputo. I love this record too. And what makes it so better is that it just sounds so great on the stereo. The production was definitely elevated with Ugly, and it was produced by Stephen Thompson, who some people may know from working with Soundgarden or Korn. So they had really stepped up their game. Roadrunner had really divulged and put in a lot of money into this recording, and I love it. So I'm so glad that these guys are celebrating the 30 years of Ugly tour as well. They are out on the road right now, and let's get into that. So yes, it is true. Life of Agony is going out on the road here in the United States for the month of October, and they are going to celebrate the 30 years of Ugly tour. They're playing for the first time the entire Ugly record in its entirety. Man, and I remember when I first saw the promo materials for this tour, I was so goddamn jealous, man, because I wish I could go to one of these shows. However, one of the unfortunate truths is that Life of Agony pretty much stays on the East Coast of the United States. They don't stray too far from their home base. They go into the Midwest a little bit, but they hardly ever come to the South. I remember, I think the last time they were here in San Antonio, they played the Sunset Station. I think that was in 2004. I was there, of course, and I met up with the guys in the band. We did a little interview work with Joey and Alan Robert, and I even partied a little bit with Keith Caputo at the bar. It was a good time, but I think that's the last time they have been in our area. The tour started in September and will run all the way through this month here in October. Like I said, playing Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and dates along the East Coast. They are also going to Europe in November. So man, a lot of people are going to be able to check this show out and see them play these tunes live, many of them for the first time. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Ugly and just share with all of our Rob's Metalworks familia out there what an important record this is in the history of metal. So for all my young people out there, if you don't know much about this early history of Life of Agony, go out there to Spotify or download your music like I do and jam Ugly. Such an amazing record. I hope many of you people will take me up on that and realize for yourself that there's a lot of true history in a band like Life of Agony that we have seen evolve over the years. But yes, thank you to all the Life of Agony guys as well for doing this for the true LOA fans out there across the United States. Thank you everybody for watching this brief episode of the Mas Metal Monologue. This one's number 7. I hope you'll continue to support our platform, continue to support metal, and of course, continue to support Rob's Metalworks. Till next time.